97 to order. My name is Dr. Stephen Bradley, State Representative of House District 66, and I'll have my colleagues introduce themselves.
Representative Devin Wood, House District 17.
Austin Baith.
Okay, thank you for all coming. What I'm going to do to start with is we're going to go around with all the lobbyists, and I want you to say who you're with and if you're for or against it.
I'm Bob Cook. I'm with Iowa Atheists and Freethinkers.
And can you do me a favor? I need everybody who's going to speak to walk up here, and so we can get you on the microphone, okay? Thank you.
My name is Bob Cook. I'm with Iowa Atheists and Freethinkers, and I oppose this bill. Iowa Atheists and Freethinkers is a staunch supporter of science. I think all laws should be based on science and facts and evidence, and I feel like this bill is sorely devoid of those things. If passed, it will just create a convenient way for anti-vax conspiracists to lie about the safety and effectiveness of vaccines. Vaccines are one of the most amazing medical advancements of the last 100 years, and one of the main reasons why life expectancy in the United States increased from 47 years in 1900 to 79 years just a couple years ago. Just because one thing happens after another doesn't mean it's caused. The second thing is caused by the first thing. It's a fallacy that's been around so long. It has a Latin name, but I feel if this bill passes, it will cause a whole lot more people to die of easily preventable diseases, and I oppose it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Who's next?
Kevin Chamberlain of Bitches Get Stuff Done. We are registered in opposition to this bill for many reasons. Firstly, if you wander into a cemetery anywhere across the United States, you'll see little kids' graves with cute little decorations from the 1950s. That is around the time that we started vaccinating, and they stopped dying. Vaccines save life. This bill is dangerous. There's not a single proof of evidence that causes SIDS, that causes autism. 0 to 3 vaccinations are the most important things in the world. I got all my shots, and I'm fine. Sure, I'm ADHD, but that doesn't mean it caused it. It is pseudoscience, it is dangerous, and I am appalled that this is even before the House committee. This should never have made it past, never have been assigned. I'm disgusted. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
John Chapman, father, grandfather. I was raised in a household where the term medical examiner was used frequently, privileged in some ways and not others. With that being said, the medical examiner has one responsibility, simply to determine the cause of death. That's their job, that's it. And I think it's very necessary for us to keep accountability both towards government, medical, but also towards citizens, and I respect that also. And I feel that if it's not a requirement for known, like vaccines, which is a foreign object, and unfortunately was also subjected plus or minus to crime scene photos, so anything foreign has a tendency to kill people. The intent behind it is to be judged afterwards in the court system. The medical examiner's job is to know exactly why. We have an obligation towards society, medical community, and parents to ensure that there's every opportunity possible for the medical examiner to simply say, this is why. As long as those opportunities are there, intent is not trying to be challenged, but having the evidence so that we do, then we're answering the question for ourselves and society, for the sake of those children and parents. Choosing what you choose to do is absolutely your choice, but we need to know exactly why. Was it a knife? Was it a blunt object? Was there a rape kit involved? Is there anything not fabricated by man inside their body? If that's not the cause, fine, but we need to know the cause. That's the only reason. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're for this bill?
I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Okay. And I will have
I apologize. Yep.
we'll have a letter from a medical examiner after all the lobbyists get done. Who's next?
I'm a medical examiner.
Okay, good. Come on up.
I'm Dr. John Aronson. I've been a medical examiner for 37 years
It was your letter I was gonna read.
in Wright County. Well, my dental appointment was canceled, so I got to come.
Okay, super.
This bill is not an anti-vaccine bill. This is a bill about gathering accurate information. I have sent to you previously copies of the portion of the child death medical examiner form. There are 8 questions on the form about the last meal the child ate. There's one question about vaccines, and it's a yes/no. Are vaccines up to date? Yes or no? I think any medical intervention that has been done needs to be documented on this. I have also included reports from the child death investigation team that the State Office of the Medical Examiner does from 2018, 19, and 20. This would affect approximately 30 child deaths in Iowa a year that are undetermined, not ones from accidents, from homicides, from natural deaths that occur. All my kids are fully vaccinated. I vaccinate kids at my family practice office. I am not anti-vaccine. This is about having accurate information regarding a death that occurs, unfortunately, for a child at a young age. So I am for this bill.
Who's next?
Hi, Cheney Yates, Blank Children's Hospital. We're registered undecided on the bill. Want to just raise a couple different concerns. Make sure we're very clear. We're talking about the medical examiner's investigation report. This is not the death certificate. Those are 2 different things. A death certificate is public information. The medical examiner's investigation report is private, confidential. We would be concerned if ever there was a move to remove that confidentiality on the investigation report, because there's lots of private information from the families that they would not want released to the public that potentially could be used to create vaccine hesitancy in our state is the concern. So want to make sure that those remain private and confidential. What I would tell you about the child death review process, there is no more extensive process in our state than reviewing an unexplained death of a child. So why we are registered undecided is we have full faith that the state medical examiner's office, who oversees all the child death review, that they are doing a comprehensive review of the child's medical record as part of that death review. So whether it's on the form or not, we believe as medical providers and with pediatricians who sit on that child death review team, we believe that's thoroughly discussed and reviewed every time there is a child death in the state of Iowa. So we are registered undecided and hope you're considering our concerns, though. Thank you.
Yeah, my understanding of the bill that everything will be confidential, but I am going to ask the writer of the bill, Representative Fed.
Sure. Well, I'll just give you guys insight why I decided to sponsor the bill. So 2 recent studies compelled me. A vaccinated versus unvaccinated study that was done that reports 18,000 children, and it was produced by Henry Ford Medical Institute, showed negative outcomes of vaccinated population of children, including higher rates of chronic disease and death than in the unvaccinated. Additionally, the state of Louisiana studied their own immunization registry along with death records and found that higher deaths in 3-month-olds that were recently vaccinated compared to the unvaccinated. So the US continues to have higher SIDS rates compared to other industrialized nations. And so I think it's just time that we start gathering data and information so parents that have children have passed away, we are making sure as a health department, we're ensuring that everything that the child takes is being considered and there's information being collected. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. Who's next?
I'm Gabby Fissler with Informed Choice Iowa. First, we want to thank Representative Fett for bringing this bill forward and having the subcommittee. We are in full support of HF 2097. As an advocacy organization, we have always pushed for more data and safety studies when it comes to vaccines. Death is listed in the vaccine package insert of every vaccine on the market as an adverse event. Yet we still do not have a good system in place to track these deaths. Even VAERS, set up specifically for this purpose, only collects about 1% of adverse reactions and deaths. Why are we not collecting this data to study and figure out the issue to see if it really is vaccines and what can be done to prevent future deaths? If vaccines are safe and effective, then this data will only strengthen that argument. Or if there is a bad lot of one vaccine type causing issues, perhaps our Department of Health and Human Services can ensure it gets pulled from shelves before another Iowa gets hurt. Any other medications a child takes is required to be listed on the medical examiner's report, as well as what they had to eat that day. The last known vaccine or vaccine should also be included in that equation. While the language of this bill does not set up any specific parameters for the department to perform studies, our hope is that this initial step of providing information to family members regarding a child's death will at least help them in choosing their healthcare treatments for their other children, such as potentially needing to obtain a medical exemption should the child of the death have been related to a recent vaccination, or leading them to investigate certain genetic conditions within their family, like the MTHFR mutations that can lead to the inability to detox properly. Please support the passage of this bill and amend our medical examiner's form to be more comprehensive.
Thank you.
Kate Walton, I'm here on behalf of the Iowa Public Health Association. We're registered opposed to the bill. We are not opposed to providing this information. I believe that currently medical examiners have access to any child's full medical record, which is why that vaccine information isn't on that initial form, because they already have access to it in the medical record. And we have concerns that this will lead to vaccine hesitancy and misrepresentation of data.
Who's next? Next.
Okay, I'm Dan Twallmeyer, and I'm here to speak for those who no longer speak for themselves. Used to not be a big history buff, but I've kind of turned that way now. So I learned about the Tennessee cluster. I don't know if any of you have heard about the Tennessee cluster, but the Tennessee cluster happened between August 1978 and March 1979. 11 infants died in Tennessee within 8 days of their DPT vaccine, 9 of which had lot 64201 from Wyeth, which is now Pfizer. 4 of the 11 were dead within 24 hours. This is known as the Tennessee cluster. And people would say, well, it could be this, it could be that. But what Wyeth did as a safe and effective move, they decided to take those lots, instead of concentrated into one area, they were spread it out. So this memo from Alan Bernstein in 1979, after reporting of the SID cases in Tennessee, we discussed the merits of limiting distribution of large number of vials from a single lot to a single state. County, city, or health department obtained agreement from the senior management staff to proceed with such a plan. This subject has been discussed with Charlie Young, and the following guidelines were developed by FSRD. I would appreciate your comments concerning this procedure and advisability of formalizing these guidelines. So the allocation of stock in distribution centers is designated by lot number. So basically what they've done is they spread it out. Instead of hitting in one spot, they spread it out. And so what they did, then they faced numbers of lawsuits. And by 1986, some of those companies were going bankrupt. So they went to our government, and they actually are the ones that got immunity. And that's why we have a 1986 Immunity Act. You can seek litigation against any product, except a vaccine. Except a vaccine. All we're asking for, my kids are vaccinated, I have vaccines in me, but guess what I don't have? I don't have an opportunity to seek compensation if there's an injury due to a vaccine. This is just information. It's giving the examiners who spoke earlier information to make a determination. That's all it is. And I have plenty of copies of these to go around. And I would greatly appreciate if this bill was able to pass and end up on the governor's desk for those who can no longer speak for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
be brief. Lindsay Maher, former virologist from the University of Iowa, Pleasantville resident, just wanting to come. I've been following this bill for the last 4 years. When it was first introduced, the chief of the Medical Examiners Society came and spoke. And while the medical record is given to them, there were 0 times when they actually considered the entire vaccination history of the child or wrote down their last vaccination. Those are his words, but I would recommend you speak with him to see if they have updated the process since then. Just in regards to SIDS in general, I think one of the speakers already spoke. U.S. is one of the highest infant mortality rates in the industrialized world. And our Institute of Medicine, who's been tasked with following up and looking at the entire schedule of safety, in 2011 issued a report that said SIDS evidence was lacking in order to determine whether or not there was causation or not due to vaccines, meaning they didn't have enough evidence to say definitively or not that vaccines cause SIDS or vaccines don't cause SIDS. And the 2014 follow-up survey also contained the same information, along with the fact that they were missing evidence for 135 out of 155 known adverse events. And so, unfortunately, the science just isn't there, and that is why the CDC is now changing things the way they are, because in the absence of science, we need to make a decision. The godfather of vaccines, Dr. Stanley Plotkin, is the one who said that. In the absence of the science, we consider it safe, despite the fact that he used 74 aborted babies to invent the rubella vaccine. So I believe we need to do our due diligence to make sure that the examiner's form is complete, and the examiners can then make their own determination. We also need to make sure this form is complete for the parents. This will not be on the death certificate. It will be for the parents' information only, because those genetic markers that we don't know, if a vaccine did cause their child's death, they may want to know that for their other children.
So you're for this bill?
I am for this bill.
Thanks. Who's next?
Hi, Logan Shine, representing the Iowa Biotechnology Association. We're registered opposed. We view it as redundant and the information is already accessible. That's all I got.
Any other people for or against? If not, I'll ask my panel. Let's go with you. Dr. Baith, he's a family physician here in Des Moines.
Thank you. Internal medicine. I struggle to figure out what problem this is really trying to solve. No, I understand. SIDS is awful, a horrible tragedy. But this isn't going to figure a goddamn thing out about the causes of SIDS. We heard the good doctor say that maybe there are 30 unexplained infant deaths in this state per year. How many subjects do we need in any scientific study to get any sort of certainty about causation? Is 30 subjects a year going to give us any idea? The answer is no. The answer of any serious scientist, the answer would be no. That's why we have national vaccine monitoring systems. We've had them for years and they work well. We have more than just VAERS. We have 4 types of vaccine monitoring systems. So if there's even a remote tiny signal for harm, we pick up on it. Let's look at who had the 4 people who are all associated with each other, speaking in support of this bill, are all folks who have consistently pushed forth concerns about vaccines, consistently put in fear about these life-saving medical technologies. Informed Choice Iowa has been using misinformation for years and years. What is the harm? The harm is just talking about this bill, giving it a hearing in the Iowa House of Representatives, let alone passing it, gives the signal to Iowans out there that vaccines are dangerous. Just even hearing this out, even hearing the possibility that we need to be reporting this when we already have nationwide systems monitoring vaccines, is going to harm kids. It's going to cause parents to second guess listening to their pediatrician, because politicians are instead passing a bill forcing medical experts like medical examiners to do something, to check a box, when already it's their job to look through the clinical history. Already parents know if their kid got a vaccine or not. They already have that information. So what problem is this really trying to solve other than giving more fuel to the anti-vax fire? It's a dangerous bill. We should.
Thank you. Dr. Representative Wood?
Yeah, thank you. Could I ask a quick question? I didn't want to interrupt earlier. Dr. Aronson, I just had a quick question. Since you're a medical examiner in front of us, someone who deals with these forms regularly, I just have a quick question about other patients or decedents. Sorry, I should probably use the correct term. Not just babies. Is this information that would be standard that you would be looking at any age person that is sitting in front of you that you're trying to determine a cause of death? Simply ruling out medical procedures, or I know these aren't procedure, or vaccination shots, any kind of medical treatment that this person has had, would that be something you're looking at when determining?
For all deaths in the state of Iowa, there's a narrative box where you put down the past medical history and recent illnesses that happened. It's you put in a narrative in that location. So if the family told me, well, they just went and got shot XYZ yesterday and today they dropped dead, I would put that into the report. That doesn't make, it's just facts that go in there. It doesn't assume causation. You're exactly right. Causation does not equal correlation. That's very true. As you said, 30 deaths in the state of Iowa. No, but if we're not a big state, but if there's 30 unexplained deaths in Iowa and you multiply that times 50, well-done studies indicate less than 1% of adverse events are reported to the VAERS database. Less than 1%. That was a study done by Harvard. So my point to bring up is that there's one single question on that. There should be more elaboration on that child section that specifies as vaccines that were given. And no, I had a child die. I was not the investigator. One of my investigators went to it, but it was in Hamilton County. This child died 2 weeks after they received the shot. He was a twin. His twin did not die. And I didn't fill the form out because it was the investigator, but I called the treating pediatrician in the town and I said, you need to report this to VAERS. It needs to be reported. That doesn't mean that it was the cause, but those reports need to go through.
Thank you for answering that question. So to me, it sounds like this is a incredibly charged discussion because of the topic. But what I'm hearing from our medical professional who works with these forms here is that the reality is that someone looking at these forms and looking at the cause of a unfortunate child's death would be that they need the well-rounded medical status and the full medical picture. And though they have access to medical records, having the consistency of a form restating it, or the ability for nothing to get lost in the shuffle, et cetera, just simply making sure that the full, well-rounded medical picture travels with the investigation of the situation seems to be an important thing to at least you, who's again doing these investigations. I'm not a medical professional, but it sounds like to me that maybe we need to have some more discussion on this. At this point, I think it should advance. Sounds like to me that having that well-rounded medical picture is of the utmost importance to determining, and maybe even just ruling out something that is typical amongst folks of that age, children of that age, simply so you can focus on things that are abnormal. And that does not necessarily mean vaccines. It could be that the vaccines are the normality and we just need to rule those out to look at a different part of the scope here. So I also think that someone brought up, Cheney, I believe it was you, brought up the privacy aspect being of the utmost importance, and knowing that this is private information. This is not going on the death certificate. This information would not be open to the public, so I'm not sure how any of these forms would be used at this moment to even procure data to sway folks on one side or the other. It sounds like to me it's just a form that is a tool similar to how any police officer would use an investigative form to collect their thoughts on all of the known facts. I believe this should move forward today so that we can look at having that consistency of the entire medical picture follow the decedent or patient at that moment. So I'm going to support. I didn't say that outright.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I'm going to support this bill too because I think 30 unexplained deaths is 30 too many. And I like it that it's going to be confidential. I think this is something that should be investigated. Over the weekend, I talked to 10 physicians. All of them went to the University of Iowa. All of them support this bill. So I'm going to go with that, and I appreciate the virologist from the University of Iowa coming. And thank you, and I don't have to read your letter, Dr. Aronson. So this bill is going to move on to committee. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks.